For people who really pay attention and watch every single one of my videos and listen to everything I say in here and watch the videos from start to finish, you might remember a few days ago I had a video and I mentioned in the video about how Whirlpool is one of the brands that is seeing a big slowdown right now in sales, and it's actually hurt their share prices, and their earnings have gone down substantially because their sales are off, especially here in North America. And so it's down to the point where it's affecting their business, and they have blamed real estate as the reason, because real estate sales have been in the toilet, and because so few people are buying homes, they're not buying appliances. But another thing that they're not buying that I even mentioned in that video is furniture. One of my viewers sent me this story of a furniture store that has 553 stores, guys. It's a big furniture store. It's called Conn's Furniture. They've been in business for 134 years. And after 134 years, even making it through the Great Depression, only now this economy is so terrible that it's going to bring down Conn's Furniture, who's been in business for 134 years. So on July 23rd, they filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy in Texas. This is the reason the CEO cited that they're in trouble and they're going out of business. He said, significant headwinds in recent years, which include drastic shifts in consumer behavior, as well as interest rate pressures, inflation, integration delays, and increased costs related to the store's merger in the past couple of years. So a couple of the key points in there are drastic shifts in consumer behavior, right? As well as interest rate pressures and inflation. Those are the three I have my eye on, because those are the things we talk about all the time here on the channel. And if people aren't buying houses, likely they're not buying that much new furniture either. If you're not moving, most people don't have the push to buy new furniture. To give you an example, my wife and I, we moved in together in 2010, but we were renting a furnished place, and then only in 2012, we rented our first place together that was unfurnished, so we had to buy all of our own furniture, right? So we literally still have 90% of all that furniture that we bought back in 2012, 12 years later. We have the same bed, we have the same dining table, we have the same sofa, we have the same TV stand, we have almost the same everything. A few things we've had to replace, like the coffee table just got worn out and busted. But overall, right, most of the furniture, the big expensive items like the bed, the sofa, the things that people spend a lot of money on, we still have that stuff. Even though we've moved a couple of times in the interim, furniture lasts for a long time. So people just don't need to buy it that often, but they especially buy it more when they move. That seems like the time to get rid of stuff and, hey, you know, this sofa doesn't fit in my new place, or I think I would like something else for this living room, but that's not happening right now. And so another thing that the CEO said is the resulting slowdown in the company's growth has placed a strain on the company's sales and liquidity position. And check this out. According to their bankruptcy petition, they have between 25,000 and 50,000 creditors with assets and liabilities in the range of $1 billion to $10 billion. So they owe a lot of money to a lot of different people. This is actually going to have a pretty major impact on my home state in Florida, because Florida is going to see 18 of their stores close. You know, they have more stores in Florida than any other state. But imagine, guys, that's 553 stores that are going to close nationwide, with who knows how many people working at each store. Let's say it's just 20 people. You know, you're already looking at over 10,000 people who are going to lose their job, maybe more. And they're a publicly traded company. Their share prices have crashed over 92% over the past couple of years. Part of the problem too is this company had a really bad CEO. They weren't responsible with this whole merger situation. The company took on way more debt than they could reasonably pay off. Just a couple of months ago, they had an earnings call in April, and even back then the CEO said he didn't expect any variance in the amount of store counts in the near future. So just a few months ago, even this own CEO was clueless on how bad the company's financial shape was actually in, or maybe he did know and just didn't want to admit it because it was his fault. And for anybody who wants to know, I'm at Loch Lomond Marina here in San Rafael. Sometimes I say where I am, sometimes I don't. Beautiful little waterfront spot, and it feels amazing out here too, by the way. It's like 71 degrees, a breeze. It's like natural air conditioning coming off this water right here. I just love it. Now here's another thing to note from this story. This Conn's Furniture bankruptcy filing is the largest bankruptcy filing so far in 2024, guys. That's how serious this is. This is a major company that's going down for the count, and it's not going to come back. This is even worse than the bankruptcy filing of Red Lobster. That's how bad this is. To make matters worse, between January and June of 2024, so the first half of the year, there was a total of 3,016 commercial Chapter 11 bankruptcies filed. That's a 34% increase just from last year. But don't worry, everything's fine. The Fed's going to start cutting interest rates soon, so it's all going to be good. Home prices are up year over year. Stock market's at all-time highs. We should all be happy. Well, I guess you probably are happy unless you work at Conn's Furniture or Red Lobster or any of these other places that have recently gone under. I mean, I don't care how bullish you are on the economy, guys. You have to at least recognize the fact that because we've seen so many bankruptcies, so many layoffs, so many things go wrong recently, this is currently having a negative effect on the economy. Is it bringing down the whole ship tomorrow? No, it isn't. And there's going to be a lot of people and companies that still do amazing throughout this downturn that we're currently starting to go through. But I think it's also important to recognize that these things are happening. A lot of regular people are being affected, and foreclosures are picking up from this. The auto loan delinquencies are picking up from this. People are just not able to pay the bills. In fact, California is one of these states that likes to always toot their own horn, right? They like to claim that, well, we are the biggest state in the country. We have the highest GDP over any other state in the country, and we're just so much better than all these other states, right? Well, California is facing its own series of mass layoffs right now because so many businesses are deciding to leave the state of California. They're deciding it's not worth being here anymore. Just in the past few weeks, in fact, right here in the Bay Area, more than 1,000 people have lost their job. And it's because of the Oakland A's are leaving the area. The crime is so bad in Oakland, I'm not going to be going there. Don't request it, guys. I'm not going to set foot in Oakland, even though it's right across the bay. I will stay over here where it's beautiful and safe. You also have things like Moxion Power. They're a green energy tech company. They just announced major job cuts. You have Vintage Wine Estates going bankrupt, literally things that were never affected. You have wine companies going through bankruptcy here now because people aren't buying their wine. And I actually saw this news story, and they said that the high-end wine is still doing good, which means that people who are rich, that have a lot of money, that typically buy $50 to $100 bottles of wine, are still doing that, okay? And those companies are doing just fine. But the companies that typically sell bottles in the $15 to $30 or $40 range are the ones that are getting hit right now, because that's more the typical consumer of wine, and people just can't afford that, guys. It's expensive to drink a bottle of wine at $30, $40 a bottle. I don't even buy bottles that expensive. I go to Safeway here. They have deals where if you buy 6 bottles of wine, they give you a discount on all 6 of them. I bought 6 bottles of bread and butter, which is one of my favorite California Cabernets. If you've never tried it, it's really good. And it was like $80, $85, which is still a lot of money. But we're talking, what is that, $12, $13 a bottle? That's nowhere near the $30, $40, $50 a bottle that a lot of people spend on wine. And I've tried wine that costs that much, and to be honest, a lot of times it's not really that much better than the $15 bottle. So according to the WARN notices, about 1,071 workers are set to lose their job here in the Bay Area just over the next couple of weeks. But I think it's important to take a closer look at the companies that are struggling. The Oakland A's, they're just leaving, right? Oakland is no longer a safe place to be. They're moving to Las Vegas. This Moxion Power, which is a green energy company, clearly that's not working out too well, and they're in trouble. And that's a big initiative that California keeps pushing, is everything has to be green. We need to get everybody, using electric everything in 5 more years from now, which is crazy, It just isn't gonna happen. And now you're seeing these companies that are involved with this going bankrupt. But take, for example, the Oakland A's leaving, right? Just that alone, that's 591 people in the Bay Area that are going to be out of a job. That's 415 people under the Athletics Investment Group, and 176 people from the Bay Area Sports Catering. So it's things that you don't even realize, like they're not even part of the sports team, but these 176 people are in charge of feeding the team and all the people that work for the team. So you might not think of it, but all of these layoffs and all of these businesses that go under have ripple effects throughout the economy, like the furniture store. Real estate sales are off, and it's so bad that people aren't buying a lot of new furniture, and you see Conn's Furniture go under. But because Conn's Furniture goes under, all those people working there are gonna lose their job and have less money to pay for other items that might affect other businesses. So it is a chain reaction that we haven't really felt the full effects yet in this economy. And think about all the money that the city of Oakland is gonna lose too. They're gonna lose all that revenue of people coming to the Oakland A's baseball games, and all the tax money they receive from that. And Oakland's already in really bad shape financially and physically. The crime there is really bad, and the city itself is in trouble financially. This is gonna make things worse for them. This is just like going out of business, right? The Oakland A's are essentially going out of business for Oakland. And Oakland is gonna feel the financial consequences from that. And a lot of places here in the Bay Area have seen their home prices essentially stagnate for the most part, except for the richest spots. Some of it's actually been coming down a little bit, some of these areas. In fact, right across the marina here is where I showed you guys back when I first got here. There's a townhouse that someone's trying to sell right now for like $150,000 less than they bought it for back in 2022. I'll pull up the listing here again if I can find it and throw it on the screen. But that's just right across the marina in a nice area like this. This is not Oakland. This is not a crime-ridden area. We're talking a very nice, posh little area on the marina. And that's not even the worst of it either, because from April through June, just April through June of 2024, there was about 7,000 tech layoffs in the Bay Area, guys. So this area is getting hit big time economically, which is kind of interesting because as I'm here, I don't really see it that much myself. Like, I don't see a ton of places for sale around here, like people losing their houses. There's not like a bunch of foreclosures anywhere. And you still see people driving around a bunch of nice cars. And it looks like people still have money here, even though a lot of people are getting hit with this recession. But you also got to recognize that the Bay Area is a giant area, basically surrounding this entire bay, and different parts get hit a lot harder than others. Like for example, that Moxion Power Company is located in Richmond across the bay, and probably won't affect too many people living over here in San Rafael unless they work there. Now here's something interesting that someone said about all these companies leaving California, is that several organizations are leaving the state blaming regulations and taxes, but the truth is they want to maximize profit at the expense of employees. Well, I think every company does that, first of all. That's not a unique situation to the companies that are leaving California. But the other thing is, the taxes and the regulations have hurt businesses here, guys. Companies have been leaving here for well over a decade now, and it's now affecting the mass population too. Regular people are also leaving for a lot of the same cited reasons, because those are the same reasons I personally wouldn't even move here myself, even though I enjoy spending time here. You can only tax people and regulate so much before people have just had enough and say, you know what? We're out of here. I can make more money in Texas, or I can make more money in Florida. I don't have to pay all these taxes. I'm not forced to deal with all these regulations. Some people blame corporate greed, that it's their fault that all these layoffs are happening and these companies are leaving the area. But the truth is that California is the least business-friendly state in the entire country. They're also the highest income tax state in the entire country. Those are huge negatives for people who want to stay here. And if you are a big CEO at a big company and you're in California, imagine how much money they're taking from you every year. They're probably taking, a third of your salary just to live in the state of California. That doesn't include taxes that you have to pay to the federal government too. But what it does is it leaves a path of destruction. It leaves the people here left suffering, not having as many good income opportunities for their careers, and it affects the local economy, and eventually you get places like Oakland where things are looking really bad right now. Another area this is happening, just to show you how much regulations can have an impact on a business, has nothing to do with California, is Stellantis, okay? Stellantis is offering buyouts to a bunch of their salaried workers here in the US because there's going to be more layoffs coming down the line for that. So it's like, here, take a payout, or you're probably going to be laid off in the next few months. That's where Stellantis is at with this. So Stellantis said that if they don't have enough employees participate in the buyout program, involuntary terminations could follow. So it's like, if you're being offered this and you work at Stellantis, it's a no-brainer to take the buyout and just quit, guys. I mean, why would you not take the separation package and risk being fired instead and have to go in the unemployment line? Who wants that? Now, no one's actually been offered this yet because they said that the eligible employees will be sent an email in the middle of August with instructions on how to access their individualized offers. So if you work at Stellantis and you get one of these buyout offers in August, take it. Now, they don't have any mention of this in this story, but we know that this is something that's happening for a fact. And the reason why Stellantis is having problems is because, number one, they're asking way too much money for their vehicles. You know, you have Jeeps now that cost like 70 grand. It's crazy. Not all of them do, but the high-end models do. Also, they are feeling the pressure from the federal government to build these EVs. In fact, I covered this a few days ago, guys. The Chrysler plant, or the Stellantis plant now in Belvidere, Illinois, where I grew up, is now going to be starting back up production soon because they got a $133 million grant from the government because they promised to just build EVs there. But the problem is they're not selling these EVs. So companies can't make it. They're not making the profits on these EVs like they were hoping for. Only Tesla. Tesla is the only EV manufacturer that is doing well right now, besides BYD in China, which we're not going to count that. It's not an American company, and it's not quite affecting us over here yet, unless they start selling their cars here. But the point is, all the other American automakers that have made their attempt at selling electric vehicles, it's been a massive failure. Ford is actually the biggest example, you know, where they're losing close to $40,000 per electric vehicle they sell. That's how bad it is. Stellantis is another company that has a terrible CEO. It seems like the CEO might end up running Stellantis into the ground if they continue on this path. You know, Stellantis might go the way of Conn's Furniture if they keep going down this road of not selling these cars, charging way too much, more than people are willing to or able to buy them for, as well as, you know, continuing with this EV push that no one seems to want. And I'm not saying no one wants EVs. I know a lot of you guys have written me and say you love your electric car, but most of you drive Teslas, okay? So it's not a Stellantis, it's not a Jeep, it's not a Chrysler product, it's not a Chevy product, it's not a Ford product, it's a Tesla. But even Tesla has seen their fair share of problems with how much they have had to cut the cost of their cars too, which we're not going to get into here. But the one thing I want you to note is that Stellantis never faced this level of problems and this level of layoffs until they hit the EV wall. You know, trying to build a lot of cars that people don't want to buy, that cost a lot of extra money, and there's just not, you just don't have the demand for them, okay? So that's how regulation gets in the way of business here, and Stellantis is an example of this. That's not a California company. So their solution instead is to just get rid of people. You know, Stellantis has reduced its headcount by 15.5% since 2019. Between 2019 and the end of 2023, they lost 15.5% of their workforce, which equals 47,500 people, guys. Tell me that's not a lot of people who have lost a job because of this. And what do you notice? It's only over the last few years. It's during the pandemic. It's when the economy started going crazy. Companies started taking on a bunch of debt. All these regulations came down from the Biden administration about having all these electric cars in the future and nothing else. So it's not a coincidence that all these companies are starting to suffer from all these regulations and this terrible economy that we're all experiencing. You know, in some way, I'm actually glad all this is happening because it kind of is a wake-up call. At least I hope it ends up eventually being one for governments to show them, listen, you cannot just regulate things to the moon and tax people to death and expect businesses to flourish, you know, because that's not happening here in California, and even non-California companies are being affected by different regulations that the government is trying to push forward prematurely before we're ready. And what you get is companies going into financial trouble. But they're still not giving up. They're still trying to subsidize this problem, like opening up the Belvidere plant, giving them $134 million for free. You know, I saw one comment when I made this video talking about the Belvidere plant, and somebody said something along the lines of like, well, what are they supposed to build, Michael? EVs are the future. Like, well, you can sit here and say that it's the future, but it's not if people aren't buying it. I understand that people do buy EVs, but the majority of people still don't. And a lot of people who don't want to buy them either. So I don't think this is going to go over too well, trying to force people into buying a product that they don't really want. That's not a very good long-term solution to this problem. And then what? If Stellantis hits a brick wall, is the government going to bail them out, just like they bailed out automakers back in 2008? You know, if they hit a wall, they're going to be partly to blame. And then what? Taxpayers are supposed to foot the bill to bail out an automaker once again over failed electric vehicle policies? And I know that's not the only reason. I'm just saying that that's how the government gets in the way. They have their hand in this problem too. Because if it wasn't for those mandates, then there's a good chance that Stellantis wouldn't be having as much financial trouble as they are now. It's also the one thing that kind of gives me hope for the future of California, because I feel like at some point the people in California might get so tired of all the taxes and regulations, and they're going to lose so many high-income earners here, and the local cities and governments are going to be hurt so much by this that they might start begging the state to turn some of these things around and start deregulating and start lowering the amount of taxes people have to pay here to bring people back. Because those are the reasons that people cite for leaving. Businesses and people are all leaving because the cost of doing business here is just not worth it. It's too high. And eventually that might be the catalyst to flip California around. At least I hope so. I'd like to see that happen in my lifetime anyways, but only time will tell. So if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you subscribe to the channel. And if you don't want to wait for my next video to come out, check out this one on the screen right over here, and I'll see you in the next one.